Holiday travel can be stressful at the best of times.
When you're in an airport, there is a lot that you need to think about. You have to remember what gate you're flying from, you have to remember your passport.
But at the worst of times, it can be an absolute nightmare.
As a traveller, arriving to a terminus and seeing long queues of people, you lose the will to live.
Massive delays, people missing their flights, losing baggage.
We've got first-hand accounts from people whose holidays...
Once flights start getting delayed, then the whole system bungs up.
...failed to get off the ground.
The police have been called.
You're all going to be getting a full refund.
Our holiday, it's just gone.
After 12 hours of travel, they didn't get any further than the airport itself.
You never think it's going to be you, and it was me.
From airport chaos and dire delays...
We were stuck in Istanbul airport for 30 hours. We looked up at the board.
Military has taken over.
We're tanks!
Oh my days.
...to terror in mid-air.
I looked up, saw smoke.
It is the stuff of nightmares.
That must have been so scary.
All of a sudden, we just dropped. It was horrific.
It felt very, very scary. I thought we were going to die then, to be honest.
If you're going off a plane on an inflatable slide, you know something has gone very, very wrong.
Your stomach drops. We were instructed to run away from the plane.
You'll be grateful you didn't have to endure these holiday travel nightmares. Once you're on board your flight and strapped in, ready to go, it can be a nightmare if you're delayed. Flight disruptions cost the airline industry millions of pounds a year.
It was Jean-Paul Sartre who said, hell is other people. And the worst thing about getting on a plane is the other people who've got on it with you.
We do have to be mindful when we travel that we're all different and we've all got our eccentricities.
According to the International Air Transport Association, unruly passengers have become a significant problem, with 1 flight in every 1,000 being affected. These incidents threaten safety, disrupt other passengers, and cause delays and diversions. Unruly passengers can pose a real threat to the safety of staff and other travellers, and sometimes cause an airline costly penalties and delays. Airlines are increasingly passing on the costs that these passengers have caused them, in the way of fines of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds.
What's going on, guys?
COVID restrictions have meant new airline regulations, one of which can be mandatory wearing of masks. But not everyone chooses to comply.
How you doing? Okay, what's this one?
On a plane in the US, one of the passengers is refusing to wear her mask.
It's really frustrating when you see things happening that you have no control over. Disruptive passengers are top of the list.
Hello, he's the representative of the aircraft. They don't want you flying on their plane today, okay? So you're going to have to get off the aircraft.
They made us wait and wait and wait. People can get quite entitled on board an aircraft.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
I mean, regulations on board an aircraft aren't just there for the fun of it.
Grab your bag.
No, I will grab my bag. They're there to protect our safety.
To make sure that the airline staff were kept safe.
I need you to get up.
Yeah. The rules on the flights are the rules on the flights, and if you've got to wear a mask, you've got to wear a mask.
I'm going to ask you one more time, and then I'm going to have to put my hands on you.
It is a criminal offence to disobey cabin crew.
For breaking the law, then surely they have every right to remove you.
I'm going to take you off the plane.
That was already happening.
And you're going to jail.
If the police are called to the aeroplane before you take off,
You're not respecting my human rights.
you're going to get arrested and charged.
I didn't do anything that did anything.
You'll be banned from the airline for life.
No, man, that's not okay.
That situation will have made people inside the aircraft irritated, anxious, distressed. If you're a nervous traveller, you're now thinking, well, what on earth? She probably struggled to get another flight that day because word will spread amongst the airport staff that they've got a hot potato.
This is the captain speaking. Flight time will be 9 hours.
And sometimes the tiniest passengers can be nightmares all through the flight.
Before I had a family, I was one of those people, tutting and shushing. Now I have a small child, I have to take him away. So now I'm one of these parents that everybody hates when they're on a plane.
Nobody wants to be sat next to a kid having a tantrum on a flight.
It may have been that the child had ear infection and was in pain. It could also be, of course, which is what everybody watching it's probably thinking, they were just misbehaving and mum weren't interested. Being distressed or being boisterous for a short period of time, most people can live with, but for 8-9 hours...
You can't reason with a very unhappy child.
You're in a very confined space. Once you're up there, there's nothing anybody can do until you get down to the ground.
Oh my God. 8 hours of screaming.
And it's not just children who can make trouble on a plane.
Aviation and alcohol really don't mix. Nobody likes a pre-flight drink, maybe something on board more than I do. But a lot of people take it to extremes.
He's obviously had a few drinks on the aircraft, and in so doing has probably upset a few of the people around him. The captain's had to come out of the flight deck to have a chat with him. He takes his clothes off and is stood in his underpants, and then decides that the captain needs a full frontal. So he takes his pants down.
He had too much to drink. Now he's showing too much as well. I have to say, my favourite part is when the girlfriend gives him a big wallop. I don't condone violence, by the way.
She's obviously just had enough.
It's the last thing that you expect you're going to see in an airport, somebody running naked around your plane. Alcohol is a big problem for airlines because people, when they go 36,000 feet in the air, they have a drink, you've got lower inhibitions.
This behaviour might look comical, but actually it represents somebody who, in the event of an emergency evacuation, would not be able to play their part. So it's very worrying.
For many of us, getting on a plane is the gateway to exciting, faraway places. But for people who don't like flying, just the thought of it can be a nightmare in itself.
Nervous flyers are incredibly common. I'm one.
Boarding a plane, it's essentially a tin can. You're then flying 36,000 feet into the air.
For someone who's a nervous flyer, it can take them from 0 to 100 real quick.
Whenever I came across a nervous flyer, I would personally take them down to that aircraft myself and hand them over to the cabin crew staff. Just relax them slightly.
And someone who knows all about fear of flying is Lisa, who's been battling with it for over 20 years.
There's always that rush of anxiety comes to me, like, oh my God, I've booked a holiday. Oh my God, I've got to get on a flight. It scares me every single time.
Over the years, Lisa has valiantly tried to overcome her fears.
It's got to the point where I end up going to the doctors to ensure that I've got tablets before.
My heart goes out to people like Lisa who find flying terrifying. For some people, it's the thought of being so high above the ground.
So when Lisa's husband wanted to whisk her away for a long weekend in Gibraltar to celebrate her 40th birthday, although looking forward to the holiday, Lisa was nervous.
I really put in my research. Certain pilots can only fly to that island, so I was like, right, I can do this.
Unfortunately, what Lisa didn't realise is that there's a reason only certain pilots are allowed to land planes in Gibraltar.
Gibraltar is notoriously bad for what we call rotor winds. Winds that basically spin in different directions in close proximity to one another. A lot of airlines insist that only captains can operate the aircraft into Gibraltar.
But Lisa was blissfully unaware of this fact as she and her husband embarked on their special weekend away.
We booked in to go to the lounge in the airport, had a couple of Prosecco's just to calm the nerves down.
However, as they were boarding at the gate, alarm bells began to ring for Lisa.
We were advised that it could be potentially a little bit windy. As they got nearer to Gibraltar, they would look then to go to Malaga Airport, should there be no way of them being able to fly because of the severity of the wind.
But Lisa was determined to put on a brave face.
I thought, right, let's roll with this, it'll be fine. So got on board, absolutely fine. I was talking to the person that was next to me on the flight. He lives in Gibraltar, so his flight to London, Gibraltar all the time. He said it can get a little bit rocky sometimes, but nothing to the extent where you would be absolutely petrified. As we're coming in, seatbelt signs coming on into land, and we thought, great, we haven't got to go to Malaga. And then I took a picture on my phone, and you could see a couple of ripples, kind of lining with the dock area. We're nearly there, and then all of a sudden, just dropped. Everybody screamed, and then you see a wing roll up one side, and then it rolls the other side, and then it's continuously rolling from side to side. You can hear the creaking of the wing. It was horrific.
Lisa's worst nightmare had come true.
The wing sort of dipping 45 degrees, coming back up 45 degrees in those type of rotor winds is not unusual. But if you're a nervous traveller, it can be very, very distressing.
Everybody was panicking. It felt like we were going to flip over, rocking from side to side. You just think, is this ever going to stop?
Looking at that, it did look quite severe.
The experience for those on board must have been terrifying.
We were, I would say, quite parallel with the dock area. So it was really close. I thought, if this continues, we're going to be flipping upside down and crash into either water or to land. Rolled 6, 7 times, and then the engines kicked in and it pushed through. We then boosted back up into the air. I just thought, I'm never going to see my kids again. It's an emotion you'll never forget.
I didn't realise it affected me that much, actually.
After what must have seemed a lifetime for Lisa, the passengers were told that the plane was diverting to mainland Spain.
We landed safely in Malaga. Everybody clapped to say, thank goodness we have arrived safe on ground. And then we were at baggage collection, and my husband just literally broke down crying. He's like, I've never, ever endured a flight like this in my life.
That it would have been such an emotional moment for all those concerned, a combination of fear and relief and upset, and also her husband was probably really worried about her.
Aircraft are safe. They are designed to withhold lots of weather conditions, including strong winds.
Having survived her travel nightmare, has facing her fears helped Lisa move forward?
The horrific flight I endured really didn't then take hold of me, thinking, oh, I'm going to be fine again.
In fact, her anxiety had not just returned, but actually increased considerably.
3 months later, we were flying on the long-haul flights. It all started again. I could feel myself shaking. I said, get me off this flight, and I've started to raise my voice. Everybody started to look at me, starting to hyperventilate. Just can't control my breathing.
In this case, the cabin crew were able to suggest a solution to help Lisa endure the flight.
They rang through to America, to doctors in Arizona to authorise then for me basically to have a pill that literally zonks me out within 15 minutes. So I then carried on with the flight.
It appears that Lisa's terrifying ordeal in the air is set to haunt her for many more flights to come.
Typical me. Why has it happened to me? I'm petrified of flying, and that flight set me back massively.
The airport might be the beginning of your holiday travel adventures, but if you're unlucky, it might also be the beginning of your holiday travel nightmares.
I've worked at airports for many years, and you never know what one day is going to be like from the next.
You have opportunists at airports. Anybody can come into an airport.
You have to assume that everybody is after your valuables. Don't take your eyes off them for a second.
Always watch your stuff.
When you're in an airport, there is a lot that you need to think about. It's only natural, really, that your bag is sometimes going to be forgotten about.
CCTV shows 2 thieves at London's Heathrow Airport where they stole thousands of pounds worth of luggage before they were caught by the police, who believed that they'd travelled there from Chile, specifically to target passengers.
Can you imagine people actually leaving their home to fly to another country's airport just so they can steal from other people? I can't. My brain can't.
Another airport danger zone is security.
When you go through security, you do put all of your valuables in that tray and you lose sight of them for at least a couple of minutes.
What happens is people get held up because they have to go for a body search. Your stuff, your belongings are then potentially sitting on the trays. The security officer that sat at the other end of that conveyor belt doesn't know what you've put in or whose trays are whose.
Somebody actually stealing somebody's money so boldly, I mean,
Fortunately for this man, because of the CCTV footage, the Rome airport police were able to arrest the thief before he could board his plane.
I was so happy that this man got his money back.
Once you're through security, it's time for a bit of retail therapy before your flight. And Ender was doing just that while waiting for his flight to Mallorca.
I heard a noise and there was a kind of rattling of the shutters. The shutters were down and a woman was inside knocking on them and saying, "Help me, please help me."
It's really bizarre that the staff have walked out of that shop and left a customer still inside it.
Shutters have gone down and everything.
She only nipped in to go and buy a couple of toiletries.
Fortunately, Ender was able to get security to come and free the imprisoned woman.
I did feel sorry for her to be stuck like that. It must be a terrifying and a distressing and an unpleasant experience.
Baggage reclaim carousels offer their own surprises.
I have seen some things come out of that carousel belt, but never a load of chicken like that.
And it's going round like it's just come off the plane on its own. It looks disgusting, doesn't it?
It is completely bonkers.
The way that man picked up his chicken and put it back in the cool box like nothing had happened.
Bizarre.
What I want to know is what's happened to that chicken afterwards? Because I'll tell you what, I won't be eating it.
And what child isn't fascinated by the airport conveyor belts?
Airports are full of lots of moving machinery and they are dangerous places for grown-ups, let alone children.
I've worked at an airport for years. Let's be honest, who hasn't wanted to go on a baggage carousel?
Oh, my days.
It was a bit funny at the beginning, but then I got scared. I went into mummy mode because I thought, what happens when he goes under?
How terrified must his mum have felt to basically see her child disappear?
To suddenly see a child coming round on you, you'd be shocked and horrified. Has that come out of the hold?
It just shows you've got to watch children 100% of the time and have eyes in the back of your head.
You know, you see it all at airports.
When you're planning a holiday, the excitement starts as soon as you get on the plane. But sometimes it takes more than one plane to actually get there.
Holiday travel should be like simplicity.
Not all flights are direct. You might want to get a good deal and recognise that actually connecting through another country will give you a great saving on that price ticket.
Airports are really well-oiled machines, but when stuff does go wrong, it can go nightmarishly wrong.
And DJ Nabil and his two friends travelling to Dubai for a lad's holiday found more than they bargained for in a stopover on the way.
We wanted to go to Dubai to experience the luxury and lavish lifestyle that we've seen across Instagram and social media. Get away from the hectic life in London and experience the real Dubai. We were looking forward to 5-star service, 5-star treatment.
Dubai has become a hugely popular tourist destination. I personally love it. You've got great weather, the shopping's amazing, and fantastic beaches.
They say if you work hard, you've got to play hard.
The journey started well as the three friends took off from London Heathrow, heading to their stopover in Istanbul.
We boarded the flight as normal. We were all sitting next to each other. We're playing pranks on each other. We're listening to music in our headphones. We had one stopover in Istanbul, which was only meant to be for 2 hours. It was a nice flight, got there safely.
I've officially landed in Istanbul. All right, bro.
But when we landed there, we looked up at the board.
We're meant to be on the plane right now, but as you can see, everything says delayed, 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 delayed.
We were extremely shocked because we've never ever experienced anything like this before.
And this was when the travel nightmare began for Nabil and his friends.
All they did was just put tape on it.
So we've actually gone to look for someone to tell us what's going on. However, there was no staff in sight. No shopkeepers, no security, no cleaners, no one at all. We were all alone. A few fellow passengers said that there's been a military coup in Turkey. I actually did not know what a military coup was. They said that basically the army is trying to overthrow the government, and right now we're all stuck in the same situation together.
Military has taken over. If anything happens to me and you find a phone, we love you.
Suddenly you arrive and there is a military coup going on.
It's not something that you expect when you go on holiday. An airport is supposed to be a secure, safe zone away from the public. We had no idea what was happening next.
We are not sleeping, and that's it. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to stay awake, stay vigilant.
We saw normal civilians barging into the airport, screaming slogans in a foreign language that we didn't know.
Go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Hey, quick, quick, quick!
At the time, it was scary. Everyone's walking through the gates, walking on the runway.
400 people just walking where the aeroplanes are parked. Imagine how dangerous that is.
It was like all the rules and regulations of the airport were literally thrown up in the air and everyone and anyone could just do as they please. You think to yourself, our safety zone has been breached.
We don't know what's going on exactly.
And you just think the worst. Next thing you know, we hear screaming coming down from the gate. We look over our shoulders and everyone's running from one side to the other. We saw people around us panicking. People were ducking and diving underneath the chairs. It felt like something from a movie. Someone told us that the army was actually inside the airport and they had guns on them.
Wait, tanks! Oh my days. Literally, I see like 4 tanks go by right now.
When I saw the tanks driving past on the runway, I thought this was it. We thought the army was actually going to attack the airport.
If you're a passenger and you're seeing tanks rolling across the airport, you might think, help, what am I going to do? How do I escape? And of course you can't.
You see people running from different sides of the airport. Then you see tanks. I mean, surely it's now time to freak out.
We literally didn't even know if we were going to get out of there alive. It felt like we was in a war zone. It was absolutely petrifying.
Right, get away from the windows, man. Let's go somewhere else. Go, go. Go, 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 go. We'll see him. Let's go.
At this point, Nabil decided that he and his friends would be safer getting away from the crowds, and they quickly moved away to find somewhere quiet.
Listen, go, go, go.
Me and my 2 friends, we actually tried to find a safe area for us. So at one stage, I did take the lead.
Run the other way, run the other way.
I said to my friends, let's run this way.
If you are in a situation where you've got the military active in the airport, I'm afraid all you can do is just sit down, keep quiet, keep calm.
The friends took shelter in the airport creche, which was empty, and provided peace and quiet away from the pandemonium out in the terminal.
We took shelter inside that nursery for the next couple of hours until things settled down a little bit around the airport. It felt like a lifetime of not knowing when we're going to get out of this situation. No one to tell us what's going on.
And that's where the 3 friends sat out the next 16 hours. Fortunately for Nabil, before long the coup began to crumble and was eventually overcome, and the airport slowly returned to normal.
Knowing that the military coup actually failed, we were so overwhelmed and felt a little bit more safe, but we still just wanted to get the hell out of there and go to Dubai.
But their nightmare was not completely over. The friends had to wait a further 12 hours to get any information about their rescheduled flight.
Our flight actually got rescheduled for a later time in the night, which meant that we were stuck in Istanbul airport for 30 hours.
We all deserve a bit of cake after a war zone. Yeah, we do, yep. I think we've earned it.
Even though we got onto the plane to go to Dubai, we were still quite nervous, thinking that we're still not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, never again, never again.
It was only when we landed in Dubai that we knew that we was totally safe. To come out safely from something like that was an absolute relief. I guess it was one of them things where, you know, we was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Oh my days.
With so many European city breaks on our doorstep and less than a couple of hours travel by air, it can be difficult to choose where to go.
Low-cost airlines have made the world very accessible, without a shadow of a doubt.
For Ian and Linda, Amsterdam was an obvious choice.
We were going to go and have some nice meals, check out a few galleries, just have a lovely, relaxing time.
You've got those gorgeous canals, history, stroop waffles. It really is one of Europe's best weekends away.
You probably expect it to be uneventful. Arrive in Amsterdam, get into town and go and enjoy yourself.
But for Ian and Linda, things got off to a bad start from the get-go.
We were going to leave Dundee by coach. It's usually a really easy thing to do. But of course, that was before Storm Doris.
The couple's coach was soon hit by bad weather as the country battled extreme gales.
The road got covered in snow and it just became a stressful journey.
I thought we were going to die then, to be honest.
After making it to the airport in one piece, the couple then found their flight to Amsterdam was delayed.
I naively felt that because the flight was running, that it was safe.
So, despite the raging storm, they boarded the flight and began to unwind.
We had a drink on the flight as we would normally do, but as soon as the plane started to descend towards the airport, things got very rough indeed.
The plane was suddenly hit by 100 miles per hour winds.
It felt very, very scary. The plane would drop very quickly and obviously quite a big distance. I mean, it was a horrendous feeling.
As this aircraft was on final approach, the crosswinds were quite strong.
The plane was going left and right.
Poor Ian was desperately trying to keep me calm. It just felt so scary.
The plane then crashed onto the tarmac.
It was a very big drop onto the runway. A thump as we hit, followed by the screeching of metal.
If the aircraft's undercarriage hits the ground harder than it should, then it collapses.
And that's exactly what happened. All 46 passengers were in danger, and the couple then smelt smoke starting to come into the cabin.
That increased the fear that there was going to be a fire.
Fire and aviation absolutely do not mix. If you can smell burning, things are getting pretty serious.
It's everybody's worst nightmare to be in a crash landing. They must have been absolutely terrified.
We were all just willing this plane to decelerate before something catastrophic happened.
The plane came to a stop and immediately we got up from our seats.
The staff began an emergency evacuation.
All of a sudden she said, "Go." You had to kind of clamber and jump out. I just legged it. I legged it away from that plane onto what felt like the safety of that green grass.
The couple were left on the grass for 40 minutes while emergency services attended to the beleaguered plane.
It was freezing cold. It was a long, long time that we were just standing there, chatting.
Eventually, a bus arrived to take the passengers to a disused terminal. Ian and Linda were in shock.
We didn't have drinks, we didn't have our bags, we didn't have our coats. We were left for about an hour and a half. Nobody would tell us what was happening, and we weren't allowed to move from there.
In an emergency situation, you want reassurance. You want somebody there to tell you what you need to do next.
For the passengers to feel that they've just been abandoned is, I think, outrageous.
Eventually, the couple received their bags and were told they could leave.
It was like, that was a bit unfortunate, but off you go, enjoy your holiday.
Despite a less than perfect start, the couple were keen to make the most of their trip.
I think we were very determined to enjoy ourselves, and we really did. We had an absolutely fabulous weekend.
But the thought of flying home was not quite so relaxing.
The airline had given us access to one of their private lounges, and we did consume a quite considerable amount of their gin.
The couple were refunded the cost of their flight and offered a free return flight home.
Flying, it's changed forever. We both are aware of what happened before and how it can change. And I certainly wouldn't fly again in a storm, even if the flight hadn't been cancelled. I just wouldn't put us through that again.
The airline, Flybe, said the plane had suffered a technical fault that resulted in the captain electing to shut down the #1 engine as a safety precaution. A final report concluded that a combination of a bent steering wheel and faulty sensors caused a situation whereby the main landing gear strut collapsed almost immediately after touchdown. Many of us dream of travelling to exotic, far-flung places. At nearly 6,000 miles away, Thailand is one such desired holiday destination, with its beautiful white sand beaches, clear blue waters and vibrant culture.
Thailand is one of those destinations, it has it all.
It's a great experience. You've got a very hedonistic atmosphere and people are going there to party.
That was the dream for MJ and a group of his friends when they planned the ultimate boys' vacation.
Thailand has always been on my radar as a place to visit, and it was essentially a lad's holiday with an element of a stag sort of celebration because one of my good friends were looking to get married.
You can have lots of incredible fun times, so it's the perfect destination for a stag do.
MJ and his pals spent 18 months planning the holiday and forked out thousands of pounds to ensure it was the trip of a lifetime, travelling via Dubai.
We decided to start the first leg of the trip to Bangkok, Pattaya, and then fly over to Singapore to finish off the holiday.
But problems began from the moment they set off. The train taking them to Heathrow Airport was delayed by nearly 2 hours.
When we finally arrived at Heathrow Airport, after that long journey, we look up at the actual departure board, and to our shock and horror, the actual flight's delayed. In fact, there wasn't any flights that were leaving. There was thunderstorms in Dubai, so that meant that all the onward flights and the connecting flights were all grounded.
Thousands of travellers were stranded at the airport with no immediate sign of help.
And there was a lot of noise, a lot of commotion, a lot of upset passengers, as you can expect.
Luck was on their side, and they managed by the skin of their teeth to get the only flight to Dubai. But further problems awaited them there.
Staff members couldn't get in because it was flooding across Dubai. We were told at that point that our flight is not going to be leaving. There is no flight to Bangkok.
The weather had stranded them, meaning an unplanned stopover in Dubai and a 5 a.m. flight the next morning. But this time, the boys made their plane without a hitch. They were finally on their way to Thailand.
We thought, this is the moment now, this is it now. Because we've been traveling for the best part of the last 36 hours now. It appeared to be that things are on the way up.
Despite arriving a whole day later than planned, they'd eventually touched down in Bangkok.
It was just excitement from the moment we landed, getting our suitcases at the airport. We've had people saying Swadika, you know, I think that means hello or welcome.
After the many delays, the boys didn't want to waste any more time and headed straight to the popular party resort of Pattaya on the east coast of the country. As it was a 2-hour journey, they'd arranged transport direct from the airport.
You get off that plane and you are relying that your airport transport is there all waiting for you to take to your destination.
We've travelled in style, we were obviously 8 of us. I was actually pretty surprised when I seen this small box type of minivan that pulls up. My friends and myself, we just brushed it off. We thought, you know, we're knackered, we're tired, we just want to make our way to Pattaya. I'm sure this is fine. I mean, obviously, it is a small vehicle, but our luggage fitted in there, we fitted in there, and we were just on our way.
We have landed in Bangkok.
The roads are relatively quiet that day. We were there early morning. The drive was pretty smooth, it was pretty relaxed. When suddenly I heard a loud sort of bang, the car's vibrating, there's a lot of noise, we're in panic mode. Everything turned 360. I started feeling the momentum of this vehicle starting to turn, the shift. We're literally heading head on at 80, 90 miles per hour towards this barrier.
It's just awful.
It was like a horror movie.
It's horrifying.
Things super slowed down. I just felt this crazy momentum until I finally landed somewhere across the other side of the dual carriageway.
When you see that minivan hit the central reservation, I mean, your heart is just in your mouth, isn't it?
There was absolute carnage with luggage everywhere. And then amongst all this wreckage, I could see bodies lying on the ground, and they were clearly my friends.
Miraculously, the driver had escaped serious injury, managing to call for an ambulance, and help soon arrived. But MJ and his friends were in a bad way.
And that's when it really began to sink in. I was really fearful. I was praying, I was panicking. I was like, oh God, please, I hope everyone's okay. One of my friends was in a really, really bad state. The immediate priority at that point was to make sure that they could provide immediate medical attention to him.
When the group finally arrived at the hospital, the medical team were on standby, and the extent of their injuries were revealed.
The range of injuries were from dislocated shoulders, bone contusions on the back, fractures. There was severe abrasion. And there's one of my friends with a broken sternum that was in a coma on a ventilator.
Their dream holiday had turned into a nightmare.
What a horrible thing to experience.
Things can change in an instant on your trip.
It's very easy to say after the event, but it's so important to make sure that you're travelling in a well-maintained vehicle that's professionally driven. And Thailand itself, one of the most dangerous places for road accidents on the planet.
They dreamed of the ultimate lads' holiday, but for MJ and friends, their trip of a lifetime had ended in disaster.
Your best mates in hospital, in life-threatening situation, I mean, there is no holiday.
Thankfully, MJ and his friends recovered and were eventually well enough to fly home. MJ now reflects on just how near he'd been to tragedy.
I mean, it was a life-changing event. Thinking about how close I was to nearly losing my life, how close my friends were to losing their lives. I feel so grateful and really, really, truly appreciative about the fact that I've been able to survive such a horrendous accident. And I do feel it is a second chance. I'm gonna intend to use it.
As we've seen so far, holiday travel can involve hour after hour of travelling. And that's if you're lucky enough to get out of the queues and onto the plane. But once you arrive at your destination, it's time to dip your toe in the water and chillax. And some of us enjoy our holidays so much that once we find our dream place, we can't help but return there again and again. That was certainly the case with this family. Mum Catherine, Dad James, and their two daughters, Amelia and Isabella, who loved visiting the Greek island of Crete and staying at their perfect hotel.
We loved the hotel. We'd been twice before. It's great for the kids, great for us, everything on site, perfect weather. And whilst we were there, decided to book it for the following year.
They couldn't wait to return to their dream holiday. And then,
due to COVID-19, it was moved once and then twice. This was finally third time lucky.
When travel restrictions were lifted, the family were due to fly from Manchester and arrived at the airport 3 hours before their early morning departure.
We thought leaving at 4 a.m. would be enough. We're only 25 minutes from the airport and we'd been told 3 hours. Don't come sooner. We got there and we saw the queue.
It's an awful start to a holiday.
I thought, I can't imagine that we're going to leave this airport today.
It's everybody's worst nightmare.
It took the family 2.5 hours to get to the front of the queue. And once they'd checked in their bags and gone through security, they only had 10 minutes to get on the plane.
My husband picked up the 3-year-old and we were running through the airport like something out of Home Alone. We got there, sweating. The lady on the gate said, "Oh, don't worry, there's still 43 people who aren't here yet."
They and their fellow passengers finally made it to the plane after waiting another 3 hours. But something was missing.
We're told, your baggage isn't here yet, bear with us. We looked out the window, a big cheer went up, the bags had arrived. They started going on, and about a minute later, they came back off. It was the crew that said they'd gone past their flying hours. This plane can't go. So you'll have to disembark. It was 2 hours after that we did get an email to say, due to operational reasons, you're not flying today. Come back tomorrow and you'll be going then.
It took hours for the family to retrace their steps through passport control, security, and reclaim their baggage before they made their way back home.
When you leave home to go on holiday, really, you don't expect to be coming back through your front door until you've had this amazing breakaway.
The family could only hope that things would be better tomorrow.
The next day we leave super early. The queue for the bag drop was absolutely fine. Security was fine.
Day 2 at the airport had been relatively stress-free. But when they finally got on the plane, they had a real feeling of déjà vu.
We were told there weren't enough ground crew to load the bags.
It's really frustrating when you see things happening that you have no control over.
Your suitcases are just out there in a separate vehicle, and then you're like, what's going on with our bags?
You can't go out there yourself and pack your own bag into the hold.
Time was ticking by. If the baggage wasn't loaded soon, the flight would have missed its window with air traffic control. It looked like Catherine and her family were about to suffer another flight cancellation.
And then we heard Simon, the co-pilot, he's out on the tarmac at the moment and he's loading your bags himself. We looked out the window at the right side and, yeah, there he was, manually pulling and pushing this tug with the suitcases. He was physically loading the bags himself.
In all the years of working in the aviation industry, I have never seen a co-pilot load bags onto an aircraft.
He's a superhero.
I wish there was more people like him in the world.
Simon definitely went above and beyond. If it wasn't for him, I think they'd still be sat there looking at our bags.
This co-pilot has literally saved the day with minutes to get all those bags on the aircraft for it to meet that deadline slot.
Thanks to Super Simon, the bags were safely aboard and the flight could depart.
The cheer on that plane when it took off, it was amazing.
The family were away at long last, having endured over 30 hours of delays. In a statement, Manchester Airport acknowledged the challenges with their check-in and baggage reclaim operations and said that they were disappointed to see passengers' plans disrupted. They said they were working towards giving passengers the best possible service as the travel sector builds back to full strength after the pandemic. Catherine and family finally made it to Crete, and once there, it was everything they dreamed of.
It was amazing. It was exactly what we thought it would be and had hoped it would be for our family holiday.
You having fun? Yeah. Isabella, you having fun? Yeah.
It did feel like a miracle that we were finally there. So it was a massive sigh of relief, a drink, and breathe.